At the boarding house, it was a normal, quiet night. The noise on a TV behind a closed door was turned up loud. There was already something bad going on in that room, but no one knew what it was. Melanie Juarez didn't answer her phone the next morning. She had planned to post on social media, but she didn't. People thought she might be busy at first, but as the hours went by, the silence became scary. In the meantime, one of the renters quickly packed up his things and left. He wiped all of his social media accounts, turned off his phone, and then he was gone. He behaved like he didn't want anyone to discover him. After several days, when the truth finally came out, everyone was shocked. What happened to Melanie? And why did the only suspect want to run away so badly? The Argentine port city of Rosario is where Melanie Juarez was born on December 22, 2000. Her parents are Daniel and Monica. She was the youngest of at least 5 children, 2 of whom were named Magaline and Agustin. Melanie has always done well in school, even when she was young. She was smart and did really well in math and other areas. She even won school Olympiads. She was also very smart at chess, where she showed off her amazing skills. People who knew her said she was a warm, charming, and driven young woman outside of school. But what she loved most was dancing. She had been interested in dance, acrobatics, and the beats of salsa since she was a kid. So, she studied while also training to be a professional dancer, and she finally became a teacher at a dance school. After she graduated from high school, her family had money problems, even though she had a bright future ahead of her. Melanie made a big choice that would change her life. She wanted to be independent and stop being a burden on her parents. It was March 28, 2021, and she was 21 years old. She decided to quit both college and her family home. Monica, her mother, was especially upset by this choice. Even though she had always been strict with Melanie and cared a lot about her schooling, she had to let her daughter go and hope she would come back someday. Melanie moved into a boarding house in Rosario's northern area. Different people rented small rooms at the place and lived there. It was there that she met new people and became friends with Fabian, a neighbor. They spent a lot of time together and became close friends very quickly. Melanie worked more than one job because she was determined to support herself. In the past, she taught salsa and bachata, worked as a delivery person for a shipping company, and even sold cell phones. The store had to close because of the pandemic limits, which made her goal of becoming financially independent even harder. Because she couldn't find a job, she chose to use her dance skills to make money online. She started making a name for herself online by joining a popular adult content site where she performed dances to show off her skills. Over time, she built a loyal following by posting pictures and videos all the time. Some reports even said that she added to her content by selling personal items and special materials on the site. There was always change at the boarding house because people moved in and out all the time. Someone new moved in on December 17, 2021. His name was Matias Ezequiel Dominguez, and he was 27 years old. He was tall and had wavy hair. At first, he seemed friendly and laid back. At the time, he worked as a delivery driver for a well-known courier company, but not much was known about his past. But soon after he got there, the way he treated Melanie became unsettling. He became possessive very quickly, being envious of her friendship with Fabian and constantly following her around. As he tried to start a relationship with her, he kept making unwanted moves toward her, but Melanie made it clear that she wasn't interested in him. At first, she tried to ignore him and keep her mind on her tasks, but at one point, she told a family member about her worries, saying that Matias was a bothersome and pushy neighbor who was making her feel bad. She always said no to his advances, but he kept doing them. Melanie and Fabian talked on the phone in the afternoon of Saturday, January 15th, 2022. As they often did, they planned to get together to talk and drink mate, an Argentine drink. The night went on with them until 10 p.m., when Melanie decided it was time to go to bed by herself. When Fabian said goodbye, he had no idea that it would be the last time he would see his best friend. The next day, Sunday, went by, and no one heard from Melanie. The next day, Monday, she still hadn't said anything. Melanie's family and close friends were getting more and more worried when she didn't answer her calls or texts, which was very unlike her. The fact that she wasn't on any social media sites at all scared them the most. Given that her online profile was a key way for her to make money, she rarely went silent. By Monday, January 17th, 2022, they were even more worried. A close friend couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong that afternoon, so they went to the boarding house where Melanie lived. When she got to her room, the door was locked. If Melanie had just walked out, she was about to leave when she ran into Matthias. When he saw how upset she was, he asked if she was looking for Melanie. He quickly reassured her that he had seen her leave that morning around 11 a.m. in a truck with an unknown guy. It looked like Matthias wasn't himself. He looked antsy and was quickly packing his things because he said he was moving because he had found a better-paying job in another area. His sudden exit, though, made people suspicious, especially since he had paid his full month's rent just a few days before. People in the neighborhood thought it was strange that he would move so quickly after making that payment. As the hours went by with no word from Melanie, her friend chose to tell her sister, Magali. Without waiting, Magali went to the police station on Tuesday, January 18th, to report Melanie missing. But the police wouldn't publicly say that Melanie was missing because they said not enough time had passed. Still, Magali claimed that her sister had panic attacks and was afraid that she might have had one that left her open to harm. One cop agreed to go with Magali to the boarding house when they realized how bad the situation was. Their room was still locked when they got there. Because they were scared, they chose to go in through a window. According to some accounts, Magali had an extra key that let them in. They found a horrible scene inside that would always bother Magali. Melanie was lying on the floor, naked and dead, with many wounds. The TV was still on and blasting at full power while her head was resting on the mattress. It was a terrible picture, and Magali had the terrible task of telling their family about what had happened. The authorities started a probe right away. It's strange that there were no clear signs of a fight or forced entry, but Melanie's phone was gone. Detectives started to talk to the owner of the boarding house and the people who lived there to try to figure out what had happened. Not long after, several people in the area confirmed that Matthias had been incredibly jealous of Melanie and had often harmed her. One witness, a Peruvian renter, said that they went back to the boarding house early on Sunday, January 16th, between 12:30 a.m. and 1 a.m. As he walked by Melanie's room, he saw that the light was on and the door was slightly open. The room was filled with the sound of the TV. He didn't think anything of the fact that she might be inside. Soon after, though, he saw Matthias carrying a towel as he walked toward the bathroom. He looked like he was about to take a shower, which would become important later. Someone else who lived there said that Matthias had talked about his plans to move in a general way. At first he said he was moving to the northern part of the city, but later he changed his mind and said he was going west instead. He said yes when asked if he would keep working as a delivery driver, which is another lie since he was said to have found a more stable and better-paying job. The police got about 15 witness statements in total, but most of them were vague and missing important information. The only person who didn't agree was the owner of the boarding house, who remembered that a renter had suddenly left on Sunday, January 16th. The case became even more mysterious because of this. Even though there were a lot of people living in the boarding house, no one said they heard any screams or other noises. This made both the police and Melanie's family very suspicious. The walls and rooms were not very thick. That night, someone must have heard something happen. In fact, her brother Agustin said that some of the neighbors might have been involved by either not saying anything or not doing anything. He also said that tenants weren't properly registered and that anyone could rent a room without giving personal information. This made it very hard to keep track of who came and went. The search for answers had just started. Both Melanie's family and friends were sure that Matthias was involved in the attack that killed her. At that point, though, there wasn't any obvious proof of it. While the investigation went on, a lawyer was quickly put in charge of representing Melanie's family, and he got right to work. The police released a forensic report soon after the crime scene investigation that had important information about both Melanie's body and her room. According to the medical examiner, she had been dead for more than 36 hours before she was found. This means that the crime happened early Sunday morning. This piece of information helped detectives put together a timeline. Melanie's last known phone action was recorded at exactly 12:01 a.m. on that Sunday, which is another reason why police think she was attacked soon after. A little more than 24 hours into the investigation, the prosecutor's office said they would not be releasing certain information until police had looked over security video from the area. These records were very important because Matthias was becoming more and more suspected since he left the boarding house without warning. Also, it was found that he removed all of his social media accounts and turned off his phone line soon after leaving, which was confirmed by people who knew him. The police were able to identify Matthias after looking at the security video. Every name, place, and detail has been checked carefully. Please let me know if you need any more changes. The video showed him quickly leaving the boarding house after packing his things into a car. The family of Melanie had even more questions after this. Why would he do that? Why did he quit his job as well at the shipping company? Investigators were already working with the company to get all of his work records, and the prosecutor's office was focusing on finding him. Then the autopsy reports for Melanie came out, which proved how badly she had been attacked. According to the story, she had been stabbed 14 times, and one of the wounds to her neck was fatal. Forensic tests also showed that she had defensive cuts on her arms and legs, which means she had fought back against her attacker. There was also proof of an attempted assault. As word got out about the crime, a group that fights for women's rights released a statement condemning what they called yet another case of gender-based violence. They asked anyone with information about the case to come forward. They also called for better protections for women, stressing the need to keep weak people from becoming easier targets for predators. For 10 days, people looked for Matthias. In order to find him, law enforcement agencies used a lot of information gathering, which later admitted by judicial sources had not been easy. They finally found him on January 27, 2022. After running away from Rosario, Matthias hid in the town of Alcorta, which is about 60 miles away. He went to stay with his mother to get away from things. When the cops showed up at his house, his mother told them that he had been there in the afternoon of Monday, January 17th. He showed up with a small truck full of clothes, household things, and 2 bikes. He told her he was going to visit more often, so she told him what she said. He then organized his things, ate, and went to sleep. He got up around 11 a.m. the next day and left the house. But on January 27th, the day he was arrested, he sent his mother a panicked text message asking her to find him a lawyer. He told her that he was being charged with killing a woman from the boarding house. Matias first hid with his mother, but then he went back to Rosario and moved into a different boarding house to try to stay hidden. But by that time, the police were getting closer. Investigators thought that he made a risky move that led to his capture because he felt like he was being surrounded by police. A forensic inspector working on the case said that the police thought Matias had done the crime by himself and not with anyone else. There were also strong rumors that the attack was related to an attempted assault that failed. However, the investigation was still going on at the time, and no solid proof had been found to support this idea. Because Matias killed a woman and did it in a cruel way, which is considered gender-based violence in Argentine law, he was officially charged with aggravated murder. For this kind of crime, the punishment is life in prison. After putting together what happened, police found that Matias had broken into Melani's room on the night of Saturday, January 15th. Later, he went to the bathroom of the boarding house to wash off any blood that was on his body. Forensic evidence found at the scene of the crime tied both him and the victim to the crime, which proved this. The prosecution's case was based on strong proof that put Matias at the scene, even though there were no eyewitnesses. The next day, he left the boarding house without warning, which made people even more suspicious of him. Matias went to court a few days after he was arrested to be formally charged. Even though he had the chance to defend himself, he decided to stay quiet. Because of what was going on, the judge in the case ordered pre-trial detention, which means he will be held in preventive custody for up to 2 years, as the law allows. The fact that Matias was caught was good news for Melani's family. They had been sure from the start that he was guilty, but soon their hopes for quick justice would be dashed. The public prosecutor's office still said in early 2024 that Melani's death was a double-qualified murder because it was both extremely cruel and happened in a setting of gender-based violence. That being said, the case went in a shockingly different way after it was put through a shortened trial. The original charges were dropped, and the case was ruled a simple murder instead. The serious factors were not taken into account. The Criminal Justice Center, the defense, and the prosecution all agreed on this decision. They all thought there wasn't enough proof to show that the crime was planned or that it happened in a setting of gender-based violence. For example, case records show that Matias and Melani had never been violent with each other before, and their only contact was living in the same boarding house. Matias was given 23 years in jail on January 16, 2025, after he admitted to his part in the crime. Even though Melani's family was glad to see that he was found guilty, they were very sad. Magali, her sister, said that even though her sister had been sentenced, nothing could bring her back. The court threw out the charges of gender-based violence, but a lot of people strongly disagreed with the ruling. Some news stories said that 269 women were killed by men in 2021, and Melani was the third victim of that year. Her sad story of a young woman with big dreams whose life was cut short because she turned down a man's approaches became another call to action in Argentina's ongoing fight against violence against women. And that concludes today's case. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new case. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Every detail counts. Until next time, stay safe and keep questioning everything.